Welcome to The Shift Show with Adriana. Join me every week to learn all about narcissistic abuse recovery, healing from physical and emotional pain after the abuse, and everything else to do with toxic people and how they affect your physical, emotional, and mental health. And no, you are not the crazy one. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let's get right to it. Welcome to episode number 18 of The Shift Show. This episode is another great interview with Mindbody Mentor Ann Seagraves. Ann has her own story of chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, histamine intolerance, and more. And she was able to overcome those symptoms by doing Dr. John Sarno's work on emotional processing. Ann is now a mind-body mentor supporting women over 40 who find themselves stuck in a state of chronic illness or pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, histamine intolerance, fibromyalgia, or any chronic symptom that conventional healthcare has not been able to help them with. She helps them heal with the power that already resides within them. This is some really powerful stuff. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Ann. Thank you so much for coming onto my podcast today.
Thank you, Adriana, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm super excited to have you. And I know we're going to have such an awesome conversation all about TMS, the mind-body syndrome, tension myositis syndrome, whatever people want to call it.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't we start, why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself and like who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into like your whole chronic pain journey that led you here.
Okay, well, my name is Ann Seagraves, and my whole journey led me to this place of just having this knowingness that I am called to serve women. And at this point, I'm serving women over 40 who are suffering from things like histamine intolerance and fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and any other physical symptoms to be able to awaken their inner healers and use the energy, the power that already resides within them to heal their own bodies. And that is just what I've come to understand is my calling.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm sure you had your own journey that led you to that. So tell us a bit like of your chronic pain journey and all the symptoms that you had and how you found out about the fact that you could be your own self-healer.
Yeah, and it's been a long one because when I look back, it literally, it's just been my entire life. I believe that I was born a highly sensitive person. And as far back as I can remember, the first year of my life, I was on antibiotics for ear infections. And of course, I don't remember that. But from the point that I do remember, motion sickness was something that was a huge thing in my life. Every time we went somewhere, it was part of what I experienced. And I know now when I look back that caused anxiety, knowing that we had to go places. I remember one time traveling down to like this football jamboree thing that my brother was in, and it was down a river. So we were on windy roads the whole time. And I was just literally, we would have to stop so that I could throw up, and it was just expected though. I mean, my parents weren't trying to be, non-empathetic, but it was just kind of, you just did what you were supposed to do. And what you did was you went wherever your family wanted to go.
Right.
And so that was part of, I think what started to make me feel anxious. And before school each day, I would put belladonna drops into water. The doctor had prescribed them for what I called my nervous stomach. And so I was dealing with anxiety way back when.
For sure.
And I was sensitive, and that wasn't really okay to be sensitive. And at least, in my generation and in lots of generations, it's like, you suck it up and you do what you're supposed to do. You don't cry, you don't whine and complain. And for me, I can't begin to explain how many times I was told that I was too sensitive, or that I was a complainer, or that I cried too much, or that I was selfish, and all of those things. And so then you learn to not be those things as much as you possibly can. And so that began a journey of illness. You know, I got sick pretty regularly, and it seemed like whenever I did, it lasted a long time. And when I was 16, I got this really bad flu and this headache that went with it that was just the worst headache I had ever had. And when I got over the flu, the headache just never went away.
Oh no.
From that point on, I had headaches continuously. And they, you know, they varied in degree. And my mom, she took me to a chiropractor, and then I started having neck problems. It's like, I didn't have a neck problem until I went to the chiropractor. And so then it was like, went off to college at 18. And I remember having my first episode of vertigo in the dorms. My roommate and I were going to get up and go to aerobics. And I was like, okay, I'm going. And I had to leave and then I spent the whole day in bed because I was like spinning, you know.
My gosh.
And then after a day, it got better. But then from then on, it was like, you know, dizziness was a thing for me.
Right.
And sometimes I would have these episodes where it's like, okay, I couldn't really function very well because it was, you know, to that degree.
Yeah.
Other times
so
it was
hard to function with
like
vertigo.
Oh gosh, yeah, you know what the vertigo is like. And so, you know, and things like going on rides at fairs, all that was always a thing for me because I was always dealing with, you know, dizziness and nausea, the motion sickness thing, all of that. And so then in my 20s, you know, and through college, I got worse. You know, first of all, I was not caring for myself whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. I was doing things that were not, you know, healthy for me at all, and not getting a lot of sleep. And in the process, I just started getting sicker. You know, I was fatigued and just continually not feeling well. And so by the time then, you know, but what do I do is, you know, you do what you're supposed to do. Right. You know, after high school, you go to college and, well, let's see, I was in a relationship. So now it's time to get married. So I got married. Never did I, as a little girl, ever have a thought of that. Oh, what my wedding day would be like or being married. Never. I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
But I ignored all of these things, all of these like red flags along the way, because I felt that in order to be acceptable, I needed validation from people outside of myself if I was going to be enough. And it never was enough. I was continually striving to try to be better, you know? And so I dealt with chronic fatigue syndrome was what I was diagnosed with through this doctor in San Francisco. And so I lived my life in this state of chronic illness, and I would try, you know, diets and supplements, and sometimes, you know, it seemed like I would have times where I was feeling a little better, and then I would just go back downhill again. And I was just continually striving to find answers. And I just pretty much came to accept, you know, here I was married, I had 2 kids, and I just feeling like shit all the time was just the way it was. And I really would just try to not think about how I was feeling about that, because if I looked too far ahead, all I could see was doom and gloom. And so I gradually, and I, you know, was struggling in my relationship with my husband. I was, you know, I was struggling a lot with just being married because, you know, when I was about 30, I just had this like aha moment that I was really never meant to get married or have kids.
Yeah.
And I thought about it and it was like, well, too freaking bad because, you know, yeah. And so you suck it up and you do what you have to do. And the guilt for all of that was like, just shove it down and be a better wife, be a better mom, it'll all be okay. And I knew that I was just such a big fake. All along I knew it, but I felt like if I could just do whatever it is I was supposed to do, and if people like felt like I was doing a good enough job, then everything else would fall into place.
Yeah.
But in the process, I was shutting down more and more emotionally. And I was just, you know, I was trying to control everything outside of myself as much as I could. And that included my kids, because if I failed as a parent, that it was all about me. If they didn't come out a certain way, it was going to be because I had failed. In my jobs, it was always about, giving 110% so that I could feel good enough. And so the best way to do that was to shut down and not think about what I wanted or needed for myself. And I remember reading this book about this woman who got fed up with her family and just left for a whole year. She went to another town and just worked as a waitress or whatever. And I read that book, and I was so into that book that it was like, at times I would like say something and it was like, oh my gosh, no, that was from the book. I was like in the book.
Yeah.
It was really kind of disturbing,
Wow. Like Alice in Wonderland.
Exactly. And it was like an escape for me. And as I neared the end of the book, I was like, I would start only just reading like a couple paragraphs at a time because I didn't want the book to end, And she did end up going back home and like that. And so when I hit, I just went along like this, on this hamster wheel, and I just shut down more and more. And so when I hit perimenopause, I had this episode of vertigo that just dropped me to my knees. I could not function. I was spinning out of control so badly, and a school year was starting up. And so I was still miserable when I went back to school. And one of the days I was there, all of a sudden it just hit me and I just started spinning. I could barely, someone had to help me walk to the office because I was I was mortified, because it's like, I want to help other people, but I do not want someone to help me.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed that someone was having to walk me to the office. And I sat down in the office for a little while, and then I got in the car, and there were people saying, you should not drive. And I got myself home. That was one of the stupid things that I ever did. And it was just really awful. And as I started to get beyond the point of the spinning out of control to where I was somewhat functional, I was functional, but I was miserable. And I jumped back into work anyway. And I would just come home and I would just sit in my chair and just let myself just die. And from there, a few months after that, I went into what I later found out was histamine intolerance. I started having these like 20-minute episodes of itching skin on my arms and legs. And it was intense for like 20 minutes, and then it would just go away.
Wow.
And so then this started to just escalate and become longer periods of time. And then I was having intestinal problems, and I started researching, and I spent so much time, I was obsessing about my symptoms because I was miserable and still trying to do everything in my life that I thought I was supposed to be doing. Right. And so I ended up coming across this thing called histamine intolerance. So then, I'm totally obsessing. I saw a naturopath, and I was, changing my diet, because food has histamine in it. That's the bottom line.
Right.
But it depends on what kinds of foods are higher in histamine. So I was, limiting my diet more and more and more. And the more I did this, the more it was like I would have like a day or two where I thought something that I was, supplementing with in my diet or taking out of my diet, this was it. This was the answer. And then the symptoms would just hit me like a bomb,
Wow.
It was like they just get more intense. And so it was this just perpetual vicious cycle of limiting my diet more and more and getting weaker and weaker and still doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing.
Wow.
And it was brutal.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, it was. And so then I finally, I came to this place. Well, I got a kidney stone, and that was the first time my husband, I had been caring for him. He had been suffering from back problems before I even married him. And migraines started, years back, and they were intense migraines where I would have to really literally care for him and give him his medicine because he would like go into seizures and things like that. So I was always on the alert about, caring for him. And then he started having panic attacks. So then I would have to decide, is he having a panic attack or is he having a migraine, so that I could know whether to give him his Imitrex or not.
Wow.
And so I was always on the alert, and
Wow.
feeling like total crap myself. And so I had this kidney stone, and that was when I was like, okay, either I'm going to walk off the edge of a cliff and never be seen again. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to just make a shift somehow.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me, because I just always felt like I needed to keep up this facade for people outside of myself and my job and like that. But I took a leave of absence from my job, and that was a huge step for me.
That's awesome.
And I started, just caring for myself. I decided, you know what, I'm going to start being selfish. And I just started focusing on me big time. And my husband, that was really hard for him, because he's like, okay, what is happening to you? Yeah. But I was still looking, I knew that there was connection to my symptoms, that my emotions played a role. I knew that past traumas and things, I knew those played a role, but I still thought that there was something physically wrong with me.
Right.
So I was still seeking outside of myself. And so I was growing from this spiritual perspective, but I was still suffering greatly in my symptoms, and fear played a really big role in that. And then it was actually, I think my sister texted me and said, does Robert, that's my husband, has he ever heard of Dr. Sarno in relation to his back problems? Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'm going to check that out. Well, what ended up happening was Dr. Sarno, it was me who grabbed on to Dr. Sarno, and I ordered a book and I read one of his books, and I started journaling, Nicole Sachs journal speak. And I jumped into Caitlin's podcast, and that provided so much comfort to me. Yeah. And the fear episode was just so, really valuable to me. Mm-hmm. And Steve Ozanich, his book is also really, really good. And that was how I was like, okay, the missing piece of the puzzle, because I was going through this program called the DNRS program, a dynamic neural program. Okay. Annie Hopper. It's a beautiful program. And you do a lot of visualizing, and it's all about retraining, your brain and creating new neural pathways. But the part that program did not have was the diving into the past trauma. Right. And it was all about, shifting your past memories into happy memories, and or just focusing in on the good memories, looking at pictures from your past and creating this vision of your future and all that. And I was having resistance as I was going through that, because I knew it was like, I've already been doing this as part of my spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. There is something missing. Yeah. And Dr. Sarno was that piece. And I knew that this was my answer. And it was not easy, because I did not have a textbook, the
book here.
Yeah. Yeah. I in fact,
it's okay. Neither did I.
Yeah. And I don't, most people I think don't. Yeah. And then if they do, something else comes about.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. They'll get a new pain or like a new syndrome or mystery illness or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, I definitely, it was like at nighttime was the worst. I would wake up and my body would just be kicking in with these, like my symptoms. It was like, they were just like rolling. And that was one of the things all along that I was so curious about. It's like, how can this like shift? How can my, itching be here and then it's shifting there, and everything was just shifted like crazy. Mm-hmm. And that was part of what was intensely happening as my brain realized, she's starting to dig into her emotions, and she's, what's going to happen if she goes off the deep end and murders somebody, or, and all of these things that, as these traumatic experiences and all that are coming out in my journaling. and all of that. And so, yeah, my symptoms went berserk.
Wow.
But I knew that was, to me, a really good sign. It was
Yeah.
a sign that my brain was in panic mode, and I was the one going, sorry, buddy, but you know, this is, I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. You have to, you know, really stick with it. And that's where having some tools for practicing presence and relaxing yourself and that kind of thing, so that you can kind of just allow what's going on to go on.
Right.
And it definitely takes practice, but
For sure.
yeah. And so, you know, it's just being a highly sensitive person, which I didn't really realize that I was a highly sensitive person until a little over a year ago. I didn't really fully realize that that is what really was so caused all those years to be so challenging for me. And things like, you know, I wasn't physically or, you know, sexually abused. And so I didn't have a trauma, like a capital T trauma.
Right.
And so at times I would feel like, okay, what was my problem?
Right.
And, you know, emotionally, I do feel that I was abused in ways, you know, I think all of us are, by family members and friends and society and all of that. But
100%.
things like my parents having to go care for my grandpa who had Alzheimer's back many years ago, and it was like this brand new thing. They had to leave for 6 weeks, and we had to go live with these friends.
Aww.
And I, you know, now I know that I felt abandoned.
Of course.
And when I look back on some of the things that happened when I was staying in those places, I remember vividly what it was like for me inside, but I also knew that I could not talk to anybody about it. I just had to, you know, when you're however old I was, you know, 10 years old or something, and you're not able to sleep at night, that's not really normal for kids to not be able to sleep.
Right.
And I couldn't sleep because I was in panic mode about what I was, you know, I was so uncomfortable. It was just awful. And I know that I had a lot of unconscious anger toward my parents, even though logically they were just doing what they needed to do. They were, you know, my dad was an only child. And so there was no one else to care for his parents, his dad. So, you know, I know all of that, but still unconsciously, we have the stuff that we have to work through. And yeah, so it's been quite the wild journey. But I have made a choice to, you know, to keep on doing the thing, you know, to keep on moving forward, and to let everything that has happened, to be grateful for every experience, and to just look at it all as one big adventure. You know, people don't climb Mount Everest or run a marathon because they want to, you know, tiptoe through the tulips.
It's true.
They know that it's going to be painful and scary and uncomfortable and hard. And that is what this human experience is it's hard. But if we can look at it as an adventure, you know, then it's definitely, it just makes it, there's less resistance and more allowing whatever comes. And the more exciting what comes is for me.
Well, that's awesome. That is such an inspiration to anyone who has the similar issues from what you had, to know that like you can totally heal yourself from it. And it's hard. We all know it's hard, but it can be done. Just, you know, simply being alive is difficult. Just being born is hard. So I think once we accept the fact that life is just hard in general, then we can take the steps to start improving our life, because, you know, it's either going to suck or we're going to put some work into it for it to suck a lot less.
Right. Yeah. And if we, you know, we have, again, we go back, you know, generations past, to where we have these conditioned ideas about how we're supposed to be, what life is supposed to look like. Well, that is all because somebody frickin' made it up. Someone decided this is how it's supposed to look. This is how you're supposed to look and feel and behave. Well, it's all crap.
It is.
You know, this experience is what it is. We are part of all that is. And the only reason we have these preconceived notions about what it's supposed to look like, feel like, and be like, is because somebody told us it was.
Yeah.
Because those parts of all of those people are in us. And so that's what we believe to be the truth. And most of those beliefs are illusions. They're false beliefs.
It's so true.
And we can make a choice to believe differently, to think differently.
It's so true. It's like that logic of, okay, we're going to do it this way just because that's the way we've been doing it forever.
Right.
Instead of there has to be a better way, let's do that instead.
Yes. And unfortunately for most of us, it takes, your world dropping out from underneath you, extreme circumstances to get there. So somebody in my mind body community was just talking about feeling like it's too late. And I said, oh my gosh, I said, you know what, if it wasn't too late for me, I mean, took till I was over 50 years old for me to finally wake up and listen to my inner, voice and to make a change, to live authentically. So it is not too late for you. It's
never too late.
It is
as long as you're a breathing, living human. I don't care if you're in your 20s. I don't care if you're in your 90s. It is never, ever too late to start making these shifts in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
That's so awesome. So how long did it take you from when you first heard about Dr. Sarno until you were like symptom free, like overall?
Well, to be completely honest, I am not completely symptom free at all times. It, from one day to the next, I sometimes still have symptoms. Yeah. And I link that to, being a highly sensitive person who takes on the emotions of other people.
Right.
And I attribute that to, through this journey, the more you get to know yourself, the more you dig into your shadows.
Sure.
I call them my little she-devils. And the more you get to know things that might have once been unconscious and now they're conscious. And for me, I feel that there are still, because I have dealt with chronic illness for so long and it became my uncomfortable, painful, awful comfort zone, that there are still, there's a part of me that isn't fully ready to let go and be symptom free all the time. And I just have to take total ownership for that and realize that is true. And I'm not really sure what that is, but I just think that it's me taking my time to just continually take steps and step further and further into my power so that I can just feel safe to completely release the remnants of what symptoms I still sometimes deal with. Yeah. But now I have, the tools that I need, that when I have a flare up, I know what to do about that. And so I don't have this ongoing, where I just go, I can't function, or it just goes on and on and on. I don't have that anymore because of the tools that I use to, help me move beyond.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So it's like now when you get the symptoms, it's not like you're stuck in bed all day. You can actually use one of your tools to move through it, allow yourself to feel that energy of the emotion just move through your body, and then you can go on with your day.
Yeah. And it's that tapping into your inner voice, your higher self, and finding that balance. I'm just such an advocate of balance, and knowing that sometimes when you're feeling really crappy, knowing when you just kind of need to take a day to just relax and veg. Yeah. And other times when it's like, no, I'm having some symptoms and I'm gonna get going and I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna take the steps and move beyond this. It'll all be okay. Yeah. And it's amazing how when you make that decision, your brain just realizes, okay, she knows she's safe, and I can just sit at the back of the room and let her take charge. For sure. Yeah, it's the tools are the key to helping us keep moving forward and not getting caught up into the vicious cycle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And would you say like a big part of what gets you into that vicious cycle is fear?
It used to be. It used to be. And now I view fear as a power tool. I feel like fear is something that we look at as such a bad thing, and we're afraid of the fear. And I was too. It was like these symptoms start to come on that indicate to you, fear is really just a word that somebody made up. Anxiety, they're just words someone put to a set of sensations they were experiencing in their body. And so it isn't, the fear, the anxiety, that isn't what we freak out about. It's what's happening in our body that makes us realize, oh my gosh, I'm in fear mode. Oh my gosh, I'm in anxiety mode. And that is when our symptoms will tend to escalate too, because we've just, alerted our brain and our sympathetic nervous system to kick in the fight, flight, freeze mode. And that's when our symptoms escalate, and it just snowballs, and we resist it because we think, oh my gosh, we're screwing up here by letting ourselves be fearful and anxious. So we resist, and it gets stuck right here in our chest, and it grows.
Yes.
And we can't release it. And that's when people end up in panic attacks and all of that, because it just builds on itself. It just snowballs. And so I have learned, and in this part of it is that the more, when we realize that we actually are the ones who heal ourselves, that nothing or no one outside of ourselves is needed for us to do this, we start to take steps in our life. It's like the more we take steps, the more fear and anxiety is going to be there. I experience fear and anxiety every frickin' day.
Yeah.
Because I am choosing to keep taking steps outside my comfort zone. And it's scary.
It is.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
It is. And so for me, I have just learned to welcome the fear and the anxiety, to embrace it, to not see it as a problem, and to just let it be a power tool that helps me to just say, you know what? I am scared as hell right now. Today I had an issue going live in my mind body community because the live thing in Facebook was not, I was no longer, I couldn't use it.
Oh, no.
So I had to download, now I can't think what it's called, this other platform for lives. And so I did that, but I was late going onto my live because I had to download that, and I was all discombobulated. And I was like, okay, maybe I just need to reschedule my live for tomorrow. And then it was like, no, I'm doing the live today.
Awesome.
And I was discombobulated, and, I clicked to go live, and it's like, my brain is going, what are you doing? Why are, but I made the choice to do it anyway. And that's what we do with fear, is we kick it in the ass. First we accept it, and we just let it flow. And the more we can just, realize what is actually happening. And I listened to a interview with Tammy Simon. She's has Sounds True, and she was interviewing a guy by the name of Scott Shute. I think he is the CEO of LinkedIn. He's something in LinkedIn. And he was talking, he has this little phrase, name it to tame it. And it's like, if we can just say it out loud and recognize, okay, I have these things going on, these symptoms going on in my body, these sensations, and I know that I'm experiencing fear and anxiety right now. Name it. And that, just doing that in itself is an opportunity for us to just have some awareness about what's happening. And, take a deep breath and just experience, allow yourself to, instead of trying to make it go away, trying to resist it, just be curious about it and just let it flow and just feel what's happening. And the more we can create that space in ourselves to do that, the more room there is for that to leave us much more quickly. So that's my take on fear, something that I used to just be petrified of. And now I just feel like it's just just the green light for me to take another step forward.
So true.
Yeah. And so that's
true.
kind of my take on fear.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like, I find that, I don't know if you see the same thing with your community or your clients, but a lot of the times, and this was true for me too, but once, my symptoms started to go away, I experienced extreme anxiety and just, I know it was a repression of fear, but I wasn't feeling it in my body anymore because, my brain understood that I didn't need that physical pain anymore or those symptoms anymore. So it just kind of started to manifest as like intense anxiety. I'd get panic attacks every now and again too. And, it's just, this fear is continuing to be repressed. And that's why we end up with the anxiety. Whereas if we can just allow ourselves to feel the fear and sit with the fear and be okay with all the sensations in our bodies that the fear is causing, then we get through that anxiety so much faster rather than just continuing to resist it.
Absolutely. And it is a really common thing with people who finally do realize that, they make it move beyond their symptoms, or they've had a great deal of improvement in their symptoms, that the fear and the anxiety, our brains, they are smart, and they realize it's like, okay, I want to keep, they love us. I mean, our brains want to keep us safe. That is the job that our brain has, is to keep us safe. And so, that anxiety thing is so common with clients. And it really means you've made progress. It means that your brain has to step it up and come up with a new creative way to try to distract you from stepping outside this box.
Right.
And anxiety is a way to hopefully keep you in your box.
Totally.
And when we can just recognize that and realize, okay, this is the brain doing its thing, and I've clearly made progress here because it's having to get creative, and just welcoming that, and just letting it, using those tools to be able to move through that, and not consider it a problem.
Yeah. So true. So true. Do you have any final words of wisdom for anyone who might be listening to this, who might be struggling with fear or symptoms, or just anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think the best thing that anybody can do for themselves is just to begin, tuning in to, we tend to live outside our bodies. We tend to not want to be in our bodies because it's uncomfortable and we don't want to feel what's going on in there. Yeah. And if you can just take, even if it's just 5 minutes a day to get quiet and to just go allow yourself to just be in your body, just to sit silently, and knowing that thoughts are going to come in. We are humans, and no matter what, thoughts are going to continue to come in. Just let them be there. Just don't try to make them go away, but just tune into your body from head all the way down to your feet. Just let yourself feel what you're feeling and where you're feeling it, and be curious about it, and start following the root of whatever it is you're feeling in your body. Start following that root to wherever it leads, to whatever emotion it leads you to whatever past trauma it leads you to, and just sit with yourself. Many times, it's scary to just be with ourselves. And that is a really good way to just start practicing some awareness. And when we start to practice awareness, we can start to contemplate what it will be like to unconditionally, radically love ourselves and accept ourselves, and to have compassion for ourselves. Because when we can start to make that a daily practice, I am telling you, your life will change, and how you see the world and how you see other people will all change. And I know, I was one big, huge mess. And I now I can't really put into words what my life is like. It's amazing. And I really do see it all as an adventure. So yeah, I guess that would be my suggestion as a place to start.
Yeah, that's so inspirational. Your whole story is so inspirational for, just in general. It's like you have been through so much, and just coming across this work has just been so life-changing for you that you've even changed career paths and everything. So that's so amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm so grateful for all the people that have entered into my human experience and all of this, and you being one of those amazing women who I consider a soul sister. And I'm so grateful for you. And I love the work that you're doing, Adriana.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
so much.
Beautiful work.
Thank you.
So needed on our planet.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm so grateful for you too. I definitely consider you as well one of my soul sisters. Like, just the people that we meet on this journey, like, you don't realize that they're your people.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that I've met you, as well as the other people in this TMS community that, we're just pretty much warriors who are, like we've done this work. We're doing as much as we can to spread the message and educate as many people as possible that you really don't have to suffer in your life as much as you have been. And, you can self-heal.
Yep. You are so right.
Awesome. And where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you? I'll put everything in the description box, but if you want to let us know as well in this episode, for anyone who doesn't want to read it, let us know.
Yes, I'll put the link for my Facebook. I'm Ann Seagraves on my personal page in Facebook, and I have a Surrendered Spirit page in Facebook. I have a Mindbody community, Mindbody Masters, which is a private Facebook group. And it's just such an awesome group for anyone who's looking for support on their journeys. It is an amazing community. And I have a website, which is surrenderedspirit.com. And I'm on Instagram as Surrendered Spirit. So yeah, I'll give you those links.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, we'll put them all in the description so people can, they can join your group. It's a free Facebook group. There's so much support on it. I'm in the group myself. It's amazing. Highly recommend anybody who is struggling with their symptoms, or what to do next with healing from their symptoms and their pain. That group is a huge resource. So definitely we'll have all those links there.
Yeah, it's a super great community. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ann, for being on my podcast this week. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Adriana.
Of course. Anytime. All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
Okay. Bye.